Hello everyone, welcome to this particular session. And today we're going to look at topic 4, which is problem definition. But before we go on with that, I'd like us to remind ourselves what we covered in our previous lesson, whereby we looked at chapter 3, which was system development life cycle. And we say that it refers to a structured process which is used for developing information systems or software, and it ensures that projects are completed systematically and efficiently. And this system development life cycle, it provides a very detailed plan outlining how to build, deploy, or even maintain a system, and ensures quality software which meets customer needs. We also looked at the planning the phases of system development lifecycle. The first one being planning. We also looked at requirement analysis. We looked at system design. We also looked at development. We looked at testing being the fifth phase. We also looked at deployment, maintenance being the last one. So today we're going to look at problem definition. So by the end of this session, you should be able to identify what problem indicators are, and you should also be able to describe the contents of terms of reference. Now, let us start by defining what problem definition and problem indicators are. So when it comes to problem definition, this one involves identifying the root cause of an issue within a system or an organization which requires a solution. So this problem definition, it is a very critical phase in the process of system analysis and design, whereby when there is poorly defined problems, it can lead to misdirected efforts or even ineffective solutions to a particular problem. Then when it comes to problem indicators, it refers to signals or signs that a problem exists in a system, a process, or an organization. So identifying these indicators early, it usually helps in addressing the underlying issues before they escalate. Let us now look at the common problem indicators. What are some of the common problem indicators? So number one, we have the performance gaps. We also have user complaints. We have increased costs. We have missed deadline. We also have productivity decline. We also have errors and failures. And lastly, we have customer dissatisfaction. Now, when it comes to performance gap, this usually refers to when there is a noticeable difference between the expected and the actual performance. Now, for example, if we have a software which frequently crashes, or even a processes which takes longer than expected, so you'll be able to notice there is a difference between the expected outcome and what the actual performance of that particular process is. Then number two, we have user complaints. Now this one refers to negative feedback from users or stakeholders, and they often indicate that there is a problem. And these problems, it could be about the system errors, it could be about inefficient processes, or even unclear instructions. Thirdly, we have increased costs. When it comes to increased costs, this refers to operational or maintenance costs which exceed the budget or rise unexpectedly, and this may signal inefficiencies or even technical issues or procedural flaws. Then number four, we have missed deadlines. When we talk about missed deadlines, this one refers to frequent failure to meet project or even operational deadlines. And this could be a sign of issues such as poor planning, inefficient workflows, or even system inefficiencies. Then number 5, we have productivity decline as another example of a problem indicator. So this one refers to a sudden drop in productivity, and it may indicate that there is system bottlenecks, outdated technology, or even training issues among the various users. Then we have errors and failures. When you talk about errors and failures, this one refers to frequent system errors, data corruption, or even failure of processes, which may suggest that there is a deeper technical or functional issues. And then we also have customer dissatisfaction. When now we talk about customer dissatisfaction, this one now refers to a drop in customer satisfaction ratings, frequent returns, or even low sales. It can point to problems that in a service or product or delivery system. Now, all these indicators that we've mentioned, starting from performance gap, we've mentioned user complaints, increased cost. We've also mentioned missed deadlines and productivity decline, errors and failures, customer dissatisfaction. All these indicators, they must be identified and even documented so that it may ensure that there is a comprehensive understanding of the problem before even developing a solution for that particular problem. So that is all about the problem indicators. There are also methods of identifying these problem indicators. What are some of the methods of identifying this the problem? So number 1, we have the root cause analysis. We also have the SWOT analysis. We have fishbone diagram. We also have brainstorming, data collection and analysis. We also have surveys and interviews. Let us look at them one by one and also see what they all refer to. So let us start with the root cause analysis. When it comes to root cause analysis, now this one refers to a systematic process which is used to pinpoint the primary cause of a particular problem. So this one, it often uses the 5 whys technique, asking why repeatedly to even drill down to the core of that particular issue. Then number 2, we have the SWOT analysis. This one is a strategic tool which is used to analyze strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and even threats. So this SWOT analysis, it usually helps in identifying internal weaknesses or even external threats which are causing a particular problem. Then thirdly, we have fishbone diagram. When it comes to fishbone diagram, it is a visual tool which helps identify multiple potential causes of a particular problem. And it categorizes the causes under headings like, let's say, people. We may have processes, machines, or even materials. So it helps to identify multiple potential causes of a problem. Then we have brainstorming. It is a group session to generate ideas about possible causes of the problem. So this brainstorming usually encourages open communication among team members to be able to identify underlying issues. Then we also have data collection and analysis. When it comes to data collection and analysis, it refers to gathering quantitative and qualitative data to be able to evaluate the current state to be able to evaluate the current state. And this one helps in spotting trends. It may help in spotting bottlenecks or even deviations from expected performance. Then lastly, we have surveys and interviews. When it comes to surveys and interviews, it is about collecting feedback directly from affected stakeholders. So these surveys and interviews, they usually provide valuable insights into user or client perspectives regarding the particular problem. So that is all about the methods of identifying the problem, whereby we've mentioned about the root cause analysis, whereby we've said it is a systematic process which is used to pinpoint the primary cause of a particular problem. We've also talked about the SWOT analysis, whereby we say that it is a strategic tool which is used to analyze the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and even threats. Thirdly, we've mentioned about the fishbone diagram, which is a visual tool which helps in identifying multiple potential causes of a problem. And then we've also talked about brainstorming, whereby we say that it is a group session which generates ideas about possible causes of a problem. Then we've talked about data collection and analysis, whereby we say that it is about gathering quantitative and qualitative data which is used to evaluate the current state. And lastly, we've talked about the surveys and interviews, whereby we say that it is about collecting feedback directly from affected stakeholders. So next, I'd like us to look at contents of a term of reference. But before that, I'd like us to define what a terms of reference is. So what is a terms of reference? Maybe you can take a few seconds to brainstorm what a terms of reference is. What is a term of reference? So it is a formal document which is used to describe a project before a full project charter is produced. So it is a formal document which is used to describe a project before a full project charter is produced. So this one now, generally it sets out the scope of what needs to be done on a particular piece of work, whereby we say that it outlines the purpose, the scope, the objectives, and even the structure of a project or assignment. So these terms of reference in system analysis, it usually provides clear guidelines on what needs to be addressed and even sets the boundaries for that particular work to be done. So there are contents of a terms of reference. So number one, we have the background. We also have purpose and objectives. We have scope. We also have constraints, assumptions, problem statements, roles and responsibilities. We have deliverables. And then we also have schedule and timeline. So when it comes to background, this section usually provides context for the work, the overall aims of the work, and even any references to other pieces of work that the team should take into account when commencing the work. So it usually highlights the reason for the review or development, and even provides summary of how the current situation evolved. Then number two, we have purpose and objectives. So it defines the main objectives of the project or system which is being developed or even analyzed. So the purpose should be aligned with the identified problem indicators and even clarify what needs to be achieved. Then thirdly, we have scope. Scope specifies the boundaries of the project, and this includes identifying the system or components which are to be reviewed, or even stakeholders involved, and even limitations of the project. So basically it just defines what will be included or excluded from the analysis or project development. Then we have constraints. So this section, it is a short section which documents any project constraints such as timescales, the available budget, the resources available, or even any legislative or regulatory frameworks which have to be considered. And then we have roles and responsibilities. So roles and responsibilities, it usually outlines the key personnel involved in the project, their roles, and even their specific responsibilities. So this usually it ensures that there is clarity on who will manage or oversee or even execute particular aspects of the project. Then we have assumptions. Assumptions, it refers to things which you don't yet know for certain, but will have an impact on the piece of work later on. That is all about assumption. So we say that it is about things which you don't yet know for certain, but will have an impact on the piece of work later on. Then we have deliverables. So this deliverable, it lists the expected outputs or results from the project. For example, reports, systems, or even analysis documentation. So each of these deliverable, it should have, let's say, specific criteria for success or even acceptance. It must have specific criteria for success or acceptance. Then we have problem statements. It is a detailed description of the problem or issue which needs to be solved. It is a detailed description of the project or issue which needs to be solved. So this problem statement, it should be clear and very specific, and highlighting the key indicators and even challenges which are faced by the system or organization. We say that it should be very clear and very specific, and highlighting the key indicators and challenges which are faced by the system or organization. So we also have schedule or timeline. When it comes to schedule or timeline, now this one, it provides a timeline for the project, including the deadlines for specific phases and milestones, and it usually helps in tracking progress and even ensures that all activities are aligned with the project's timeline. And then lastly, we have methodology. When it comes to methodology, this one describes the approach which will be used to carry out the analysis or project development. It describes the approach which will be used to carry out the analysis or project development. So this one, methodology may outline techniques, for example, or tools or even frameworks which will be employed to collect data or even analyze the problem or design solutions. So that was all about topic 4. It was a very short one, whereby we've looked at problem definition. We've been able to define what problem definition is, whereby we say that it involves identifying the root cause of an issue within a system or organization. and it requires a solution. We've also been able to define what problem indicators are, whereby we've said that these are signals or maybe signs that a problem exists in a system or even an organization. From there, we've also looked at the common problem indicators, whereby we've mentioned performance gaps, whereby we say that it refers to when there is a noticeable difference between the expected and the actual performance. And then we also mentioned about user complaints. Now this one is about, let's say, when we receive negative feedback from users or even stakeholders, and this often indicates that there is a problem. Then we've also talked about increased costs, and then we've said that it is when operational or maintenance costs exceed the budget or rise unexpectedly, and it usually signals that there is inefficiencies or even technical issues or procedural flaws. We've also talked about missed deadline as another common problem indicator, whereby we say that it involves frequent failure to meet project or even operational deadlines. And then we've also talked about productivity decline. We've talked about productivity decline. And on productivity decline, we said that it is a sudden drop in productivity and indicates the system bottlenecks or even outdated technology or training issues among the users. Then we talked about errors and failures, which we say that it involves frequent system errors, let's say data corruption or even failure of processes, and even it may suggest that there is a deeper technical or functional issue. Lastly, we talked about customer dissatisfaction as another common problem indicator, whereby we say that it is about a drop in customer satisfaction ratings, frequent returns, or let's say low sales card, which points to problems in a service or product delivery system. And then we also talked about the contents of a terms of reference. Contents of a terms of reference, whereby we were able to define what a terms of reference is. And we say that it is a formal document which is used to describe a project before a full project charter is produced. We mentioned some of the contents such as background. We mentioned about purpose and objectives. We mentioned about scope, constraints. We mentioned about problem statement, roles and responsibilities, deliverables and schedule or timeline. And lastly, we talked about assumptions and methodology. And lastly, we talked about methods of identifying the problems, and we listed some of the methods such as root cause analysis, SWOT analysis, fishbone diagram, brainstorming, data collection and analysis, surveys, and even interviews. So that was all about topic 4. And topic 5, we are going to look at feasibility study. So I'll end there for now, and then we're going to look at feasibility study as chapter 5. Feasibility study as chapter 5.